Okay, so welcome to this week's Free Tutorial Friday. I've been posting a lot of these abstract environmental sketches using markers on Mylar. And this is actually a tracing paper I found down deep in my flat file. It's not Mylar, but thought we'd give it a try. It's made by Seth Cole, and it's called Coraline. So let's give it a try. I'll just open up here to this page. And I've got some big Copic markers here, some wide Copic markers, and I have some cool 1, 3, what else do I have, a 5 and a 7. So the way that I've been doing those sketches, actually those are really old sketches from when I did the sort of Creative Environments DVD for Gnomon way back, and but this is basically how I did them. And these are the first sketches that I do where you just rough out some big blocky kind of shapes. And what's interesting about this paper is non-absorbent. And what makes that interesting is you can easily go back into the marker stroke and wet it out again and pull the marker around. And so I've just got a distant horizon there, and let's just hint at a little bit of some perspective guidelines coming towards us, and put some other shapes here in the foreground and keep this part light, maybe a little bit of a hill there. And so it's super, even though it's a permanent marker, it's actually very, very fluid and forgiving in a way. It's like using a watercolor wash, which is why, what markers were invented for, was to be a permanent, faster drawing solution to watercolor. So that was C1, and I'm going to go in. Let's put the light upper left, let's say. So maybe just come back and hit some of these, the edges of some of these structures. So sort of the shadow side, and maybe cast some shadows into this rocky area up here. So if you follow my Instagram, you'll see some examples of these that I've added a little color filter to. So did a little photo manipulation just on my phone, and this is how they were created. Although I think those were on Mylar, but this is going to give us a very similar result. And so what I'm going to do here is just put a couple lines on the ground that look like contour lines on a hill, for instance, and then maybe a little ground plane, and then some more contour lines back up to the other side. And we're just going to do the really simple, atmospheric perspective again, like one of my previous videos, and maybe just something winding down the road off and, into the distance, some more little hills. And so I like to use the side of this marker just to quickly block in architectural looking shapes, and also to block in what maybe could be figures standing in the distance, maybe standing up on those rocks or on that hillside. And maybe let's add some larger rock forms here in the foreground. And since you can basically erase it, right? You can come back in and wet out anything you want with this and just add more value. The thing you have to be careful of is that it doesn't really ever dry. At least, it dries very sticky. And so when you scan these, you can easily ruin your scanner by doing a bunch of these, then running off to your scanner, throwing them face down on there, and having the permanent marker get on the glass and then completely muck up your surface. So be careful of that. I think it's better to take a picture of these instead of throwing them on a scanner. But you see, if you puddle it around a little bit, then it'll bleed around. You can get some really nice textures. And so that's what's, I think, most fun about this technique, is to just let it, and I use both ends. See, I use the point there to do some thinner lines. I'm trying to get some foreshortening, and then stretch it across there. I'm starting to hint now. Now I kind of see some water here. Maybe this is a reflection of that building. There's the shoreline. There's another building there. And if I wanted to make that look more like water, I could go back to my C1 and say, oh, I want to pull that that water into here. So actually just almost erase it with a lighter marker. See, and I'm pulling that out. And so let's extend that shoreline. And then we can add back the reflections, or you could ripple those reflections. I think this actually looks like this paper is actually starting to absorb a little bit, and that's causing me a little bit of problem. It's starting to ripple and get a bit wavy. That's probably not the best. I think the Mylar is even better, but I didn't have any Mylar in my flat file, so this is what I'm going with. And let's put some dark darks. Now watch, I'm just going to add some big dark shadows in through here. Right, not really paying much attention to what the volumes are, but I know that there's some blocky shapes there, and they're going to cast some shadows and are lights from the upper left. And so just get some darks. And what we can do with those is come back and start to smear them around with a lighter marker. And starting to get pretty sticky at this point. I'm just putting some dots down. I don't know what they're going to become, if anything. So a lot of these, and the thing I did on my DVD way back was take these kinds of sketches and then scan them, or take a photo, drop them into Photoshop and stack them on top of each other, and then start using different mixing techniques like multiply and overlay and difference and those sorts of things to composite them, and you get some very different looking color palettes and results, and you also get some different compositions that you might not have drawn. So again, it's that living in the land of happy accidents. So this is again one of those kind of exercises. And I also like to drop in shapes that look like they could be figures, because as humans we always look for other figures in photographs and paintings. So I like to start to drop in things that could be figures. It just takes like a little blip, couple little blips here and there to hint that it could be a, head and shoulders, that sort of thing. Then we start to associate those as being humans, and then we start to think about and reference everything else in the scene relative to their size. And so once you drop in the humans, then you have a scale reference. And these maybe need to be a little bigger so they're not humans in the distance, they're actually rocks. And you can see you can just keep going and going and building up those little shapes. You can get a lot of detail and texture into those areas. Maybe there's some white sand through here. Again, I could mix my marker. It's not great for the nibs to throw a C1 in on top of a C7, but if you have a set that's kind of old, these are actually ancient. These are actually from when I did those DVDs, which I don't know, it must almost 10 years ago now, I think. And so you can start to pull that down and get some contours. So like this is sand or snow or something drifting up against those rocks. And then you can pull those edges overlapping. So we're playing with a little bit of overlapping, playing with a lot of atmospheric perspective. That's obviously too dark. Way over here in the distance, no big deal. Just grab a C3. I want to keep a little bit of that value, and then maybe let's give it a little bit of accent here. It's a different architectural shape than the other buildings. Let's pull a shadow down that hillside maybe. Okay, and so I can just drop in some other shapes. And that's basically about it. Super quick one this week. I'm off to make my way over to Lucca, Italy, to go to Lucca Comics and Games. We'll have we should have, assuming shipping all went well, we should have the How to Draw book there for sale for the very first time. And the app should be all up and functioning at the end of next week. Books will arrive here to the studio at the end of next week, and then to our East Coast warehouse shortly after that. And then finally get a textbook into print, which is pretty exciting for me. So thanks to everybody for the support and being so patient while the book gets done. But I think you'll be happy with it, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised by all the additional content like the almost 10 hours of educational video, some of which are my YouTube videos because they were appropriate for the book, but others that are all new. I think I don't know how many all new ones, but there's a lot. So all for free, a free app, free video content, all as part of the buying the book. So thanks again for that support, and I think hopefully you find this interesting. I know they're a lot of fun to do, and again, just a way to find some inspiration, help you see new things, and it really loosens you up because it's very difficult to go and draw those kinds of shapes where it's the material puddling around that actually gives you a lot of interesting formations. So that's it. I will try to record one more free tutorial Friday, and we'll try to post it even while I'm out of town. And then I'll be back in 2 weeks live again for the next one. So have a great week. Bye-bye.